Julia, how compelling are valuations in China right now?
So I think the valuations are very low compared with history. I do think that if you look at the economic fundamentals, we are not growing at 6% as we were pre-pandemic, but 4%, 5% growth it's still, I think 4 to 4.5% is still achievable for next year. So that's not it's not too bad. And I do think that policies are playing a more proactive role. So based on these things, I would suggest that valuations is very attractive. I do think that sentiment is quite fragile. And that means that valuation, is probably not going to, the market is probably not going to move on valuation alone, and it needs other catalysts. And some of that catalysts have to come from a clearing of the policy uncertainty when it comes to being more pro-business. Some of that may be external uncertainty when it comes to geopolitics or even higher interest rates. So I think that's the type of things that are keeping market range-bound at the moment. But we do think that if you think about certain type of exposure in the China market, they're still quite unique in not only in this part of the world, but even globally. You get good exposure to industrial automation, industrial 5G. You have good applications, even if not a research, but you get good applications when it comes to artificial intelligence. So there's all these type of exposures that are interesting and offer structural growth opportunities for long-term investors. So that's the part of market that we still like in China.
Julia, can I ask you about the yen? We almost reached 152 earlier, or maybe I shouldn't even say that. Maybe I should just say 151.91, because at that point we saw, obviously something happened, whether it was traders or perhaps even intervention. There was a little rumor that there might have been intervention. What does JPMorgan see for the yen, and what was today?
So look, I think the yen's still on a depreciation trend, probably a slower pace than what was earlier in the year, but the trend is still pointing towards depreciation pressure for two reasons, right? The biggest reason is that the Bank of Japan is not taking a particularly proactive role in reining in inflation, and that means that its inflation expectation continues to go up. It pressures the yen on the weaker side, and that in turn creates even more inflation pressure. So that is a kind of a feedback mechanism that's very much still in play at the moment. And then on the other hand, you have what we just talked about, the fact that U.S. rates are not expected to come down anytime soon. So the global environment is still what it is. So I think that for both these reasons, yen is still very much in a depreciation trend. I do think that we are getting very close to what we think is the target for the end of this year, which is just slightly above 150. So the pace of depreciation probably should slow from here. But I think that the trend is very much a depreciation one, and intervention from policymakers probably will not necessarily stand or reverse that for now.